Welcome. We're going to look at working with text. Now I'm going to start with just your basic functions, creating text, the preferences that you can use with your text, and then we're going to add some text to some shapes, and then I'm going to give you a few tips for use in your classroom. If we start and look at our T in our toolbar, that's going to bring up our text functions at the top of our screen. Now this is in a little different spot than it was in Active Studio and Active Primary, but the functions are basically the same. You still have your fonts on the left, the size of your text, your bold, italic, and underline, and many of these functions are just like the programs that you use like Microsoft Word. You can change the color of your text, and if you don't like your basic colors, you can go ahead and click in and add your own custom colors. Left, center, right. And if we move over here to our right, this will produce our on-screen keyboard. So if you're not near the keyboard in your classroom or you want your students to type in up at the board, if we click on this, it'll give us a keyboard up on the screen that we can add text with. Now if we look at the text that I've added, to select that text you're just going to click on it and you'll notice your preferences come across the top. Looking at your preference menu at the top from left to right, your first button gives you the ability to move your text around the screen. Your second button will give you the ability to rotate your text. And a quick tip here is it's amazing how many kids will read what is up on the screen when it is not your basic left to right. So if I turn my text upside down, maybe for a warm-up or an activator, great way to draw the kids' attention. Now we're going to skip down to your ordering groups. Okay, these three buttons right here. Now if I go ahead and I add a shape to my screen, so let's add a rectangle. And let's say I want working with text as the title of my presentation, so I want to give it a little background. Now, before I do anything, you'll see that the text is behind the shape. So the first thing I have to do is bring that to the front, and that's this button right here. That's going to reorder your text to bring it up to the front. Now I also want to make sure that this doesn't move within the shape. So if I highlight the entire thing, so I go ahead and highlight the whole thing, and I'm going to click this grouped button. Now when I click that, the text and the shape are going to become one. So you'll notice now I can reorder my shape, and the text is going to go ahead and change with it. Now that we have our text within our yellow rectangle, we can change the size of it by just changing the size of the shape. Okay, and you'll see that this works great with just adding a one vocabulary word or a math problem and using that to highlight whatever it is that you're doing. Now it is also important to remember that our screen is a lot bigger than what you can see right now. So if you look at this tab at the top and we make our screen a little bit smaller, we have all this outside area to work with, and I'll show you how that's beneficial when using text. Now if we go over to our shape tool, and what we're going to do is we're going to add an arrow. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to just group that arrow. So just like how we did with the text, we're going to group that all together. So when I go ahead and I press grouped, you'll see that the arrow now controls the text. Now what we can do is we can take that totally off the screen, just leaving so you can see the arrow. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to make this a best fit, so exactly how we were before, and you'll see the advantages of doing that. Now if you want to hide something for later, put it into your presentation, give your students an answer, and you'll see when we pull that arrow, there is our text. So in this yellow box could be a whole number of things. Now I want to show you one more thing that's very easy to do. If we go ahead and we click on our text tool and we put in a vocabulary word, now we're going to use the skills that we just learned. We're going to go ahead and we're going to group that with a circle. And I'm going to make my circle yellow, just like our text box. I'm going to put the word inside. So again, I have to click on the vocabulary word, bring it forward, put it inside our circle, and I'm going to group the entire thing together. Now you'll see that you have it in this circle and you have your vocabulary word highlighted. So if I click on the next page, I've created a little bit of a template to show you how this is valuable. And you'll see I have know it and needs work. Now I've hidden our vocabulary words behind the treasure chest, and all I did was hit send backwards instead of send forwards, and I've already created bubbles with the words like I did on the last page. Now if I go and I reach into this treasure chest, and being a social studies guy, these are all social studies words, my students would have to come to the board, pull the words out, and say what the definition was, or how it applied to what we were doing. They're either going to put it in the Know It column, or they're going to drag it into the Needs Work column. So if we reach back into our treasure chest, you'll see we have the English Bill of Rights, separation of power. A great way to check for understanding and get your students up to your board. I hope we've learned a little bit more about text today.